Yeah, thanks for listening to the Old Fools. It's such great fun doing this with David Quantick, as you can imagine. And if you like it, we don't care. If you're an old fool yourself, fuck off or listen to it. Either is good. You can subscribe, whatever that is, and tell people about it. Or don't. I don't give a shit.
Hello, my name's David Quantick. You heard Ian, TLDR. Please listen to our show and subscribe to the podcast, The Old Fools, at something.com, I don't know.
Hello and welcome to The Old Fools. I'm Ian Martin, a sad, washed-up old fuck praying for the sweet release of death. I'm joined as per bloody usual by comedy legend David Quantick.
Hello, I'm David Quantick. Ian got that right. Yeah, I'm failing to crowdfund a book, having everything I've written rejected, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Not for us, but for our guest, the incredibly talented Gail Renard. Hello, Gail. How are you?
Hi. Well, thank you for that intro. I feel like I owe you a fiver.
Everyone owes me a fiver.
I'll put it into the crowdfunding. I'm Gail Renard. I'm a comedy and children's writer. I could have written War and Peace, but what people will remember best is Hartley, Hare and the Chuckle Brothers. But I've also written a book about my time with John Lennon when I was a teenager called Give Me a Chance, which is being developed for film as we speak.
Ah,
Nice.
tell us about John and Yoko back in the olden days of bed-ins and love-ins and sit-ins and whatnot.
Well, of course, this is a prenatal memory for me, but I grew up in Montreal in Canada, and I was a huge Beatlemaniac from the age of 10. And when I was 16, I heard John and Yoko were coming to Montreal, and nobody came to Montreal. And I ran downtown to see if I could have a look at them or just catch a glimpse. To cut a long story short, their hotel surrounded by fans. I could see where their suite was. Well, because they dangled a sheet outside the window saying love and peace, so I could count. And basically, through all sorts of ways, I sneaked in, dodged security guards, waited until it was safe. I knocked on the door. Yoko answered, and I asked if I could have an interview for my school paper. And she said yes, and invited me in, and suddenly I'm there with John Lennon. I got my interview, we hit it off, and they asked if I would stay for all 8 days of the bed into hell.
Cool.
Well, I had to ring my mother. And
Mum, I've joined the Beatles.
I was a very well brought up, very innocent girl, and my mother was a little Jewish mother, so she insisted on speaking to John and laid out the ground rules. And I spent 8 days. Basically, I would say front row seat to rock history. So it was quite something for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, you were just hanging around in the hotel room while all these people came and went and chatted and took drugs and had
No drugs
sex and whatever.
No sex or drugs. No, I was there to help. John was very good about making sure he told the bodyguards no drugs, no drink, because he didn't want the headlines to be anything else but peace.
What was the idea, Gail, that they would spend a week in bed towards world peace?
No, talking about peace, because John thought, if I'm going to be talking about peace for 8 days, we might as well be comfortable. He was the most pragmatic man, and it worked.
Yeah, John was right. What I always kind of liked about it was an insane way of doing publicity. The press did go in the hope of seeing John and Yoko doing it. He even wrote a song, one of the very few good peace songs, even though some of the references are a bit dated. I think if he left Timothy Leary out and put in Hartley, Hare, it might have even more universality. Yeah, I'm very envious. I mean, I've been hugged by Ringo, but that's as far as it's gone for me. Oh, Paul McCartney spoke to me on a train once. But yeah, you definitely win in Beatles stakes.
By some distance, I'd say.
Ian was in the Beatles for a short time in 1964.
I was the drummer before Pete Best.
It's true.
I couldn't do Waltz Time, so I had to go.
Gail, are you on Give Peace a Chance?
Yes.
Hey!
Wow. You're on a John Lennon record.
And I can say it now, but he gave me the original lyrics.
Okay.
which I don't have anymore.
The sound of millions of Beatles fans are jumping out of their bedrooms, getting on motorbikes and going around to burgle Gail.
Hang on, you don't have them anymore?
No.
What happened to them?
In the old days, there was no such thing as rock memorabilia. It was a souvenir that my mother wanted to throw out because it was on a large piece of card for the sing-along. It was like a cue card.
Wow.
So I had them framed at home. And then suddenly memorabilia over the years started to have a value. And I got nervous because the wall that they were on, the roof leaked. And I thought, my goodness, if something happened to the lyrics, that would not be great. And in the end, I auctioned them.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yes. So to keep them safe. And now they were on display at Liverpool Museum recently because Yoko has them now.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah, I go and visit them every so often.
If we listen to Give Peace a Chance, can we hear your girlish treble wafting over the tambourines?
Well, I was a tambourine player.
Oh.
And I was a very good tambourine player. I realized I wasn't the star turn, so I was a bit shy during the song.
So there's no like extended version. It goes like, and now Gail on tambo.
I'm on a Bob Dylan track.
Are you?
Really?
Are you in the audience, Ian?
Of course I'm in the audience. 1969 Isle of Wight Festival. Yeah, I'm one of 4 million people going, hey, when you start singing, Rolling Stone.
Right. My big claim to rock live fame is that I made David Bowie sing The Laughing Gnome live.
Made him?
Okay, you have to explain.
I went to a press conference for one of his tours at the Rainbow Theatre, and it was one of those desperate things where if people voted for a song, he would play it. And, of course, I put my hand up and said, David Quantick and me, if enough people vote for The Laughing Gnome, will you play it? And he had a guitar, and he just went, I was walking down the high street. Didn't do the whole song, didn't bring on a band, but I don't think he ever performed it live, so I think I'm responsible for the only live performance of The Laughing Gnome. Thank me now.
Well, yeah, cheers. What's been on your mind, Gail, of late?
There's a holy trinity of questions women get asked throughout their lives, and I'm rather tired of them. The first question is, when are you going to get married?
Yeah.
That one lasts a good long time, especially in a Jewish family. The second one is, when are you going to have children? So each question gets testier and testier as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And now I've hit the golden, when are you going to retire? And it's very hard not to say what I'm thinking. The politest answer I can give is, what's it to you, Sparky? Because do you not like my writing? Do you wish I'd stopped years before? Can you tell me which year you thought I should have stopped? Right is right. That's what we do.
That's the thing. If you type for a living, then you're going to be typing for a living. Now we've got laptops on your deathbed. All of us are. So I don't. The notion of retiring is ludicrous.
That's my favorite Laurel and Hardy story because, especially as I'm sure you know, in their last years, they were very close, and Stan wrote their sketches and the material. And even after Oliver Hardy died, Stan kept writing new Laurel and Hardy sketches, and I can see it. It made him happy, and he couldn't not write them. Double negative.
Yeah.
It's also the nature of writing because, not to be excessively artistic, but while we all write for money and while we all rely on writing to bring money because we have no other talents, personally, apart from Gail has the tambourine, which would always keep you going outside tube stations. I was talking about writing for Caitlin Moran once, and she basically said it was like having a shit. It's something that you have to do. And while it's pleasanter than that, you just sit there and it's like, I don't know what I think until I write something down. And then I discover I've done something horrifying on Facebook. Yeah, writing is not like getting married. Writing is essential. God, that sounded really a bit pretentious, but I don't really care.
Yeah, well, that's you, isn't it? I tell you what I've been thinking about. Shall I tell you what I've been thinking about?
I'm going on. Tell us what you've been thinking about.
Bonfire night. Oh, yeah, or as we used to call it, Guy Fawkes night. Remember Guy Fawkes?
5th of November.
Remember all that.
See, we didn't have this in Canada.
Yeah, you didn't have that in Canada?
No, we didn't.
Well, he didn't try and blow up your fucking Houses of Parliament, did he? As a Catholic terrorist bastard. And so we used to burn him every year, Gail, on a big bonfire. Have you seen the film? You know the film 1917?
Yes.
It's like that. It was like that in the old days. It was like that in everyone's back garden. Just explosions, smoke, very mid-century, the whole thing, when I was a kid. Everyone used pipe smoke, cigarette smoke, coal smoke, bonfire smoke, fireworks smoke. It was more smoke than air. It was
trains. Don't forget trains.
Train smoke.
But the thing is, Guy Fawkes was tortured. He was captured. He was tortured. He was hanged and then drawn and quartered.
Yeah.
And still, people go on torturing this poor man.
And still, they made him sign something. The only reason now I remember Guy Fawkes is when you get those packages you have to sign for, where you have to do your signature with your nail on one of those little electronic pads, and it just looks like Guy Fawkes' signature after he was tortured.
Yeah, that's why the postman doesn't come anymore, because you say this every single. Do you know what? He's like, oh, for God's sake, we don't even have Guy Fawkes, Granny.
But I mean, I used to really resent the fading of Guy Fawkes night into bonfire night and then fireworks night. When the kids were growing up, Halloween started creeping in, and this American bullshit. Now I'm much more relaxed about it because it seems much more civilized to me, having kids go around dressed up in whatever, collecting sweets, than throwing bangers. You remember bangers, David Quantick? You remember bangers?
Oh, yes, I remember.
Toy sticks of dynamite for children. And if you sellotape them together, you could just throw them in someone's face. This is the shit that went on. It's absolutely outrageous.
It was a rough time. Don't forget football violence, race riots, punk. But I mean, I would ask the question: Who would you rather see burned in effigy, Guy Fawkes or Donald Duck? I think we know the answer. Donald Duck.
How very dare you?
Right. Okay, well, have you worked with Donald Duck?
Yes, I have, and this is very painful. He paid the mortgage on my house for many years.
Literally. His uncle had something to say about that. Uncle Scrooge McDuck, you're wasting your money.
I wrote for Disney for many, many, many years. I always called it my screensaver in the background. I was Donald Duck's, Scrooge McDuck's scriptwriter for books, magazines, whatever Disney wanted.
What do you mean they weren't making it up? They had rights.
You just improvised the whole thing.
Okay, love, I'll do this. And maybe you can be coming in with a shower unit.
The ducks, you might notice, the ducks and mice only meet on very special occasions, like a 50th anniversary. There will be a story that includes both of them, and then the universe implodes.
Like Christmas in the Trenches.
Yes, a bit like that. And I never liked writing for Mickey Mouse. He was the Bing Crosby of cartoon characters.
Oh, that's hard.
Well, he was a great singer, but personality-wise, he must have been dull. Well, no, I was going to say he must have been dull to write for, but he did all right in Philadelphia Story.
I heard, when I saw the documentary, that when Mickey Mouse started, he was an anarchist and lovable. Then he became the corporate symbol. And they were like, oh shit, Mickey can't do anything fun anymore. And they invented Donald Duck to be new Mickey.
It could be. I mean, I always thought writing for Donald Duck must have been like writing for Tony Hancock, because he was irascible. He felt sorry for himself. He was never right, and he was never going to win.
Yeah.
And here's a little known fact. Ray Galton and Alan Simpson also wrote for Disney at that time.
No way.
They got us all during the ITV strike.
Wow.
Sorry, it sounds terrible. We were around, and they went for British sitcom writers because the headquarters of the publications is in Copenhagen, and they loved British sitcoms, thank goodness. And they went to Ray and Alan and me and a couple of others.
Wow.
Yeah, so there is a Disney story that is based on the blood donor, where, a little known fact, where Donald gives his settee away and then wants it back.
Okay. A pint, that's nearly a wingful.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Donald Duck as Tony Hancock.
Tony Hancock didn't walk around with his arse out in a little sailor jacket.
I think it's nice when cartoon characters fade away just like gently, like you remember Boo Boo in Yogi Bear?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's just died, sadly, of cartoon cancer after a long battle with cartoon cancer, and he's just slipped away. But you don't hear much about Tony Hancock-inspired cartoon suicides, do you?
No, but...
No, because there haven't been any. Sorry, Gail.
I think that's going to be my next book, how Donald Duck was influenced by Tony Hancock, at least in my scripts.
Because in Britain, we're vaguely aware that Top Cat is Bilko, except they're cats.
Yeah.
Flintstones is the Honeymooners, except they're primitive beings. And the Jetsons is the Flintstones in space.
I like Fancy in Top Cat, the one who was like Cary Grant. Don't fight it, baby. You can make sweet music together. That one.
It's a very good impression of a cartoon cat being Cary Grant.
See what I'm regretting? I'm beginning to regret now that I didn't do one of those poems, the sort of poems you see in local newspapers that make their way onto Facebook about bonfire night.
Oh, we're back to
about. Do you remember in the old days?
Do you remember a teddy that talks? The terrible death of Mr. Guy Fawkes.
Oh, yeah, he had a hat like the man off Quaker Oats.
He really was one of those scroats.
Baked potatoes, toffee apples, rockets, sparklers, Roman candles.
I used to present on the original talk radio, I say, before it went digital and was sold and things like that. And the weirdest, we always hated Halloween night because that's when you got the angry people saying, this is a religious holiday, and it's All Hallows Eve and all that.
Eve, yeah.
And it was funny, the venom that came in the phone calls on no other day but Halloween night. And you go, I'm sorry if Halloween rained on your parade, but there's not a lot you can say.
Yeah.
In Britain, we've had Guy Fawkes, which is basically, as we've talked about, burning a Catholic in effigy for his attempts to destroy the Protestant monarchy. But then when Halloween comes on, we all start laughing, going, Americans are like, Halloween's a satanic event, ha-ha. Or Harry Potter is a satanic book. And it's forgetting that, if you go to somewhere like, well, specifically Lewis in Sussex, they still burn the Pope in effigy.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of, that's a bit skewing towards religious insanity.
When the kids were little, we lived in Catford, they burnt a big effigy of Margaret Thatcher, which sort of made sense at the time, but still... It's a bit creepy, isn't it?
In Hastings, where I live, we have another bonfire event, which is sort of like a spin-off of Bonfire Night and Halloween, and it takes place on a different night. And then they always burn something in effigy. They burned Boris Johnson last year to promote Ian's book. And this year, brilliantly, they burnt the concept of AI.
Oh, how wonderful.
Which is great. It was a big kind of doughy figure at a laptop. So it might have been based on me, I'm not sure. But yeah, so they burnt the concept of AI, which is fantastic. Gail, could I ask you a question? So when we met you in your narrative, you were in Montreal with John Lennon. And when you next turn up in the narrative of entertainment, you're writing Hartley Hare. How is this? Did Yoko give you a connection to Inigo Pitkin?
It's a long story. I came over. I finished university. I was 20. I came over. I had met the Monty Python group and did an interview with them. This time not for my school newspaper, but I'd wanted to come over to England and have a look around before I graduated. And I thought, how can I get someone to pay for it? So I basically sold a feature. I got all the Python, basically wasn't going for that long, at least not in Canada. And I wrote to them all and asked for an interview, and they said yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, which I was able to sell to a Canadian newspaper to pay for my trip. But we hit it off as friends, and they helped me. They helped me get started. So I've been very, very lucky in the people who've been kind and mentored me.
Bloody hell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's part of what I do, why I do what I do at the Writers Guild, because you've got to pass it on.
Yeah.
And also there was more work around then for writers. Oh, in those days there was more, but there was more work. And I got into ATV, and before I knew it, I was writing for Hartley Hare.
Wow. Does it annoy you when people point out that Hartley Hare appears to be a bundle of old rags animated by Satan?
Well, no, to be fair, he was an old moth-eaten cardigan that had been that was made into a puppet the first time round. Now there's a mohair version of Hartley, which is much nicer.
The mod version.
It'd been around for 10 years or whatever. I must have written...
That's incredible.
Yeah, I wrote probably close to 100 episodes. And they're releasing any moment now a box set of every Pipkins DVD that's still in existence. Guess what you're not getting for Christmas?
Right. See, the thing is, Gail and Ian, it's been an exciting week because I've forgotten her name. Rachel Reeves. That's it. She got into massive trouble this week because she killed 1 million people. No, wait, she didn't. She put a picture up in her office. The picture was of Stalin and Hitler having sex in a bed made of kittens. No, it wasn't. It was Ellen Wilkinson, the fiery particle. This is terrible because she was a bit of a communist, but not really. Even though she was friends with Winston Churchill and all kinds of things. A, it's the continuing bizarre campaign of the media to try and find something to beat Labour on the head with. But B, it's, who cares? Last week it was Keir Starmer took down a picture of Shakespeare and then had sex with it or something. And this week it's like, why? What's next?
You can tell a person by what's in the background of their Zoom picture. What worried me was during one of the thousands of Tory leadership elections, Michael Gove did an interview and his bookshelf was behind him, and there was a whole shelf of Hitler books. And you thought, okay, this is interesting. Did you put them there on purpose for a laugh? Are you interested in Hitler?
Also, it's a thing of, I want people to see this. You know, Mrs. Gove going, Michael, do you think you should hide the Hitler books? He's going, no. Who could possibly have it?
People need to see this.
People need to see that I like Hitler.
Have you got any problematic people up on your wall, David Quantick?
Well, unfortunately, and this is an insane coincidence, I'm writing an article for a magazine about Nazi counterfactual novels. So I literally have a huge pile of Nazi...
Oh, my goodness. Have we caught you? I mean, sorry, Dave just held up a lot of Nazi things.
It's just an interesting... I just sound like Michael Gove now. I should just give up. I think it's the uniforms, Gail. That's what really attracted me to this genre.
Yeah, it's the helmet that you're wearing currently as you speak that's worrying. Well, I was going to do the old Canadian joke, but it might be distasteful.
No, this thing's called the Old Fools.
Oh, the number one rule, which is true. Never eat the yellow snow. You shouldn't eat snow anyway because it makes you more thirsty.
Really?
Yeah.
That's counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like the Titanic thing. You know, if the Titanic had sped up instead of slowing down, everyone would have been all right because it would just crash through the iceberg.
Oh, I thought it was like that thing because I've driven in Illinois in winter and they always tell you, turn towards the ice. You're like, no, wait. And you do it. And it's like, oh, my God, I haven't gone over a cliff. So maybe that's what it's in the Titanic. Turn towards the iceberg and you'll come out of the skid.
Yeah, take it on. Have a go.
It couldn't have been any worse.
It would have been, apparently, it was Jenny Cole who told me this about the Titanic, and it's stuck with me ever since. If they'd gone, oh, fuck you, iceberg, we're going full steam ahead, everybody. Brace yourselves. That would have just splintered the iceberg and everyone would have been safe.
That would have been a much better movie. It would have been shorter. There would have been no lying about in the sea.
Oh, God, no fucking Irish dancing below deck, all that shit, yeah.
I went to see Titanic at the pictures and it was one of those moments when the interval comes and you think, shall I run?
At the pictures, you saw it, did you? At the pictures?
Yeah.
Pensioners' morning, was it? That's how I saw the last Tarantino movie. They have these pensioners' mornings at the Duke's Theatre. You get a cup of coffee, a biscuit, reduced admission, and a Tarantino film. It's the dream. It's the dream.
Now, I wanted to tell you about when we were talking about things that get us angry.
Oh, yes.
Shall we touch upon Sir Christopher Chope? He's a very obstructive politician, which drives me a bit crazy.
Filibuster, Mr. Filibuster.
As long as you keep talking and don't cede the floor, nobody can interrupt you.
It's a bit like podcasting in a sense.
And his latest one, which I love, he said Badenoch shouldn't be Tory leader because, quote, she's too preoccupied with her own children. I would say that's a really bad call for you, Chopey, if you want to get into the cabinet or anything.
Why are there always these vile old things? I mean, every party has its idiots, obviously, but Conservative Party, because of the nature of it, has always got these kind of leftover turds from a museum who should be in a painting or a Punch cartoon. You know, when you see these Max Beerbohm cartoons in an old pub and it's some wanker making a gesture in a top hat. And his life is so spavined and useless, like a fat Jacob Rees-Mogg, that he has to pose as this character to get attention. And what's not funny is at the expense of people's lives and stuff like that.
But it's your point about the idea of characters. They're everywhere. There's the fucking old man in the corner of the pub with a dog on a bit of string. Or those people who hang out in the members' dining room at the Houses of Parliament, you know, dressed in a bizarre way. They can all just get in the bin.
My whole thing is that all these fuckers are archetypes. Whether you look, Boris Johnson, famously, people always say to me, "Oh, he's a laugh, isn't he?" It's like, yes, the merriment never ceases with him. And even, controversially, Jeremy Corbyn, who is not, to be honest, entirely pompous. He's kind of, because he fits into a character. He looks a bit like a geography teacher. He looks like a nice man who cares about vegetables and people. And he sort of acquired that corner of the world. Tony Blair looked like an efficient businessman.
Look at him now. Tony Blair, he looks like a haunted Pilates instructor now, doesn't he? He looks like he's lifted the corner of that tarpaulin and seen something in his past that he doesn't like very much at all.
You join us now as we leave. You're a bit late. Thank you very much, Gail Renard, for joining us. Thank you, Ian, for something. It's been a great week. Thank you, Steve Doherty, our fine producer. Join us next week on The Old Fools when there'll be more of this.
Stop, for God's sake, stop. Sorry.
Get it, go.